Oh, you didn't test it?
That's a good test.
Good morning, church.
Good morning.
How's everybody today? Wow. Usually when I prepare for a sermon, I have something in the back of my mind that's been kind of, nagging at me for a while that I need to preach about. But this last week, I struggled to come up with a subject matter. In fact, as of about 8 o'clock last night, I still had no idea what I was going to preach about. And so I was getting a little nervous. And so finally, I should have done this a long time ago, like at the first of the week. I just turned it over to God and I said, God, figure it out. I'm clueless. Figure it out. And so within minutes, I had it. So that was a very big relief. So about 11 o'clock last night, I finished my sermon notes. I wasn't able to spend as much time as I like to, but I was able to get them finished, and I was very thankful for that. I didn't know what I was going to do if I didn't have it, to come up here and just kind of ad-lib, I guess. So the title of my sermon is, What Would Your Legacy Be? When we die and we leave this third rock from the sun and have gone to the other side, and when I say the other side, I hope Christians would know that to be heaven. I really hope you had that figured out. We all want to have, or at least we should have, a great desire to have left an excellent and lasting legacy about who we were. And your legacy should be about what you did for God's kingdom here on earth. That is what you should be remembered for, not the deals that you closed, or how big or nice your house was, or what important names you dropped at the church picnic, or that you drove a very nice car or had a very nice Super Cub. I guarantee you that all those things are not what God will remember you by. And just in case that you just crawled out of a cave this morning and are not aware of what's going on in the world, let me give you a hint. This old world is in very, very deep trouble. Wallowing in a moral cesspool, carrying a very long list of other crimes and problems, all of which make the world rife with opportunities to help people. I've told many people over the years, where there's adversity, there's opportunity. And the greater the adversity, the greater the opportunity. And when you have an adversity, you need to look for the opportunity for you to help other people. You only need to close your eyes and spin a globe and then stop it with your finger. If you stopped it on land, I promise you that there are scores of people that need to be helped right there under your finger. For those of you who have never had the absolute privilege to travel in a third world country, you have little idea of what I'm talking about. Very little idea. As a few of you know, my wife and I have traveled extensively on motorcycles, just the two of us, through 11 African countries, many of which were on the State Department don't go there for any reason list. And I've also been in 2 other African countries without my wife. But you don't have to travel to some third world country to find people to help. There's multiple opportunities right here in Togo, right here in the state. So what kind of legacy will you leave? You should all strive to leave a legacy to people so they will have fond and lasting memories of who you really were. Examples would be, what have you accomplished in God's kingdom during your time here on earth? What did you accomplish? What seeds have you planted in people's hearts? How many people have you led to Jesus? How many people that are down and out have you helped? How many people have you given a leg up that are far less fortunate than you are? And if you sleep in a house, safe from bad guys, you have 3 meals eat a day, have access to health care, have just $10 to your name. You're more blessed than 98% of the people in the world. Think about that. But you would have to go to a third world country to understand that. Now, you don't get it by watching CNN or some video on YouTube about how poor people are. I mean, it gives you this vague idea, but when you're there and watching people starve to death, dying of dysentery, then it changes your entire perspective on life. And if you ever have any kind of a chance whatsoever to travel to a third world country, jump on it. Don't be afraid, just go do it. What about being remembered by the people that you baptized? What about that? How many people in here have baptized somebody? Let's see a show of hands. 1, 2, 3. And Terry, 4. Oh, there's somebody, 5. 5 people. Understand this, baptizing people is not just for somebody that has a degree in theology. A lot of people believe that. That's simply not true. It's a commandment from God. Let's look at Matthew 28:18 through 20. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. In other words, what Jesus is saying here, he is establishing his authority to give you the following instructions. The Great Commission. Go therefore. Now he's just not talking to people that have a theology degree. He's talking to everybody that reads the Bible. And the people that should and aren't. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Teaching them to observe all things that I commanded you, and lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. Amen. That is a direct instruction from Jesus for you to go baptize people. So, my question is to you is this: why haven't you done that? The world is rife with opportunities to lead people to Christ and baptize them. It's an incredible experience to baptize somebody. I've baptized 2 people, only 2, unfortunately. But it is truly an incredible experience. What about the homeless people you took in? Will you be remembered for that? How about the hungry people you fed? How many hungry people have you fed? How many people have fed hungry people? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. 9. Wow, that's better than the baptizing rate. How many sick people have you cared for? I mean, we're talking strangers here. How many strange people have you cared for that were ill? Matthew 25:31 through 46 tells us, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from his goats. And he will set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry? When did we feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did when did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothe you? Or when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me. Then he will also say to those on his left hand, depart from me, you cursed, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not take me in. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. Then they will also answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick in prison and did not minister to you? Then he will answer them, saying, assuredly, I say to you, inasmuch as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these will go away into the everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. Now, you need to really stop and think about that. If you're not helping the sick and the poor and the downtrodden, that's not really, doesn't sound like that's going to end very well for you. Mother Teresa said, when she was working in Calcutta, India, helping the poor, and read destitute. Poor doesn't even begin to describe these people. I looked into the eyes of the poor and I saw Jesus in his most distressing disguise. I know somebody quite well. I've known her for years. She was born in India, dirt poor. Dirt poor doesn't describe it. Horribly poor. You know, like eating out of garbage cans and the garbage dumps poor. And her parents moved her to the United States, where they worked incredibly hard to become fabulously wealthy. From nothing to just incredibly wealthy. I've been working on her for a long years to get her out of her Hindu belief system and to accept Christ. And it's a problem. I mean, it's a challenge because they worship multiple gods, multiple deities, and I mean, it is complicated as we begin to describe it. But it's hard for me to understand why they can believe there's so many gods. I mean, they have gods for everything. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different gods. But at this point, she's also going to a Christian church with her husband and her daughter. So there is hope. There's always hope. But that's my prayer. Let's talk about baptizing other people for a minute. At the risk of sounding like I'm bragging, which I'm not, I'm only using my own personal experiences as a clue for you of what you can do. Because if I can do this, anybody can do it. Absolutely anybody. So one time, Len and I were getting ready to take off for Africa, and it was the winter of 2016, and we needed to make some money in order to finance this nearly year-long trip. And so I loaded my motorcycle into it. We were living down at Anchor Point. I loaded my motorcycle into a crate, shipped it to Tacoma, got on it, rode it to Arizona, and went to work. And I help people that have problems with horses. And so I went down there, and I was helping some people with the horses, and two women in Denver that I'd never heard of found out that I was in Phoenix area. And so they called me up on my cell phone and they said, we both have health issues and we have a dog with a problem. We'd like to drive down to Phoenix and you could help us out. I said, okay. So they showed up. So I worked on, some of you don't know I'm a doctor. So I worked on them for about a week and got their dog going good, and they were doing remarkably well. And all this time, they were pretty new agers. And all this time I was, dropping not so subtle hints about Christ. I mean, I started really kind of browbeating them about it. And so I had a Bible with me, and it was the Message version. And it was one of the favorite versions I have, and it was all marked up, highlighted, ink marks from one page to the other, cover to cover. And God told me to give my Bible to one of these women, so I gave it to her. And then I said, you really need to consider accepting Christ and be baptized. And she said, I'm in. I bet my mouth fell open a foot. I just couldn't hardly believe it. And I said, wow, that's good. So we went from Phoenix up north. I jumped on my bike, and they followed me up to a friend's house that I have in Cottonwood, Arizona. I've known a long time. And so we took both of those women down to Cottonwood Creek, and I baptized one of them. She came out of the water speaking in tongues. I was just blown away. What a privilege to be used by God like that. And then the other one decided she wanted to be baptized, so I baptized both of them. Now this was in 2016. We went to Africa, gone almost a year, come back. And all this time I've been praying for those two women that God would use them to be mighty women for God. And so about, I don't know, a week and a half ago, I had this nagging, and I hadn't talked to these. I mean, that was kind of the end of the conversation, except between me and God about it. So I had this nagging feeling. It just would not leave me. I needed to call and check on these women. So I picked up the phone and I called them. And they were happened to both be at the same place. So I'm talking to them, and I told them, I said, you know, ever since I baptized you, I've been praying fervently that God would use both of you for his kingdom and be mighty women for God. And she said, well, you won't believe this. The one I gave the Bible to, she says she studies her Bible every morning for 2 hours. Wow. And they're leading people to Christ by the busloads. And what an answer to prayer. Just incredible. So I'm telling you this story because you can do that for people. Why don't you do that for people? I mean, if I can do it, I guarantee you can do it. What about helping the down and out? One time, years ago, I was in Anchorage and I was in a business meeting, and I'd left to go get some lunch. I'm walking down the street, and I'm going to this restaurant that had a big salad bar, and I'm walking down the street, and I walk past a Taco Bell, and here's this native guy, and he was an Eskimo. I could tell by looking at him because I spent a lot of time in that part of Alaska and Nome and on the Seward Peninsula. And so I pretty much even knew where he was from just by looking at him. And I'm walking by him, and he's sitting on the sidewalk, leaning against Taco Bell, and he says, can I have 50 cents for a taco? Oh my God, 50 cents. So I said, come on, get up. I took him into Taco Bell, took him up to the counter. I said, you order whatever you want. And so he ordered something, and I said, double the order. I told the lady behind the counter, I said, double the order. Now, come to find out, his name was Ernie, and Ernie didn't smell good, I can tell you that. He reeked pretty bad. It'd been a while since he'd had a bath, like I had a really long while. And so I sat down there with him at the table, because I wanted to get to know Ernie's story. I wanted to know what made Ernie tick, how did he get to where he is, and what was he going to do about it. And so he's eating, and I don't know if you've been around many Eskimos, but a lot of them, if they don't want to talk to you, they look up like this. And they just stare off up here in the corner, and they refuse to even look at you or talk to you. If they don't want to look at you, they don't want to say anything. And he was just about to that point. So I said, so where are you from, Ernie? After I figured out his name, he said, I'm from Unalakleet. I said, oh, you know Boyd Ryan? Oh, yeah. And so we had a connection right there. And then I rattled off a couple other names. I knew people that he knew, so he would then talk to me. I had to establish a rapport with him. Anything that would it take so that he would talk to me. And so now we had a rapport going, and so we're chatting away. And I said, so Ernie, tell me your story. How did you get to where you're at today? Ernie says, I was a Navy SEAL. I thought, oh. I had a hard time believing that because I have some very close friends that are ex-Navy SEALs, former Navy SEALs, and they're not like that. They're just not like that. So I had a hard time swallowing that. And there's a lot of people in the world that claim they're SEALs, and I just ask them what Bud school they've been to. They have no idea. They can't even put a number on it, or they'll make up a number that simply doesn't exist. So I said, so what do you want to do? He said, I want to dry out. So I picked up my cell phone and I called information. I got the phone number for Elmendorf Air Force Base Drug and Rehab Hospital. I called him and I got somebody on the phone and I said, I got a guy here that wants to dry out a vet. And told the guy, I said, he claims he's a former SEAL. He said, what's his social security number? So I asked Ernie, he rattled it off. I gave it to the guy. He said, yep, he is. And he said, I said, I'll call the gate. Give me your license plate number. I did. And he said, I'll call the gate, tell him you're coming. And he gave me directions of where to go after I went through the gate onto Elmendorf. It was Elmendorf and Fort Ridge then. Now it's a joint base, J-Bear. And so I drove up to the gate. They saluted me through the gate. And I've been on the base a lot of times. That doesn't happen. And I drove to the hospital. I got Ernie out of the truck. I took him in and I sat there with him until he was admitted because he was scared to death. I sat there with him, keeping calm and assured that everything's going to work out. And I handed him one of my business cards and I said, listen, as soon as you're out of here, you call me at this number. I'll get you a ticket back to you. That was a mistake. I should have gave my card to the guy at the front desk because he wasn't going to ask for help. And I never heard from Ernie again for years, several years. One day I come out of a restaurant after a business meeting and standing right there at the restaurant door is two native guys begging for food. One of them's Ernie. I said, Ernie, why didn't you call me? He immediately recognized me. And he was sober. And I ran the other guy off and took Ernie in there. Because I wanted to have another chat with Ernie, not with the other guy. I wanted to talk to Ernie. And I set him down, he ordered, and he's eating, and I said, so Ernie, what happened? What's going on? And he said, well, I've got a job. I start in 2 weeks at such and such a company. And he was staying at the St. Francis shelter in Anchorage.